Hey everyone, and welcome to Kind of Evolved, a podcast about living naturally. My name's Drew Bonito, and I am your host, or at least I'm supposed to be. It has been a long time since I did one of these, and even when I was doing them, they were sporadic. I did not stick to my schedule right off the bat. And I know I only probably have a couple listeners max, and one of them is me, but I do apologize for that. There's a good reason for it, and it's actually today's topic. So for like a year and a half, yeah, maybe on and off, I've been going through some mental health stuff. It all started predominantly with hardcore, intense insomnia for the first time in my life. I used to sleep so hard, like I feel like I would have slept through a house fire. And then it suddenly turned into me not being able to sleep, not being able to stay asleep once I got to sleep, and then waking up before I was fully rested. And it turned out it all came down to my anxiety disorder that I was not being medicated for at the time. So today's episode is about unnatural meds in this unnatural world of ours. So I feel like, let me give you my history first real quick. This episode is there's going to be some ranting in this, but I'm going to try to keep it interesting and informative, and I'm hoping I can help people that have been on the fence about going on meds for any mental health issues. So I was diagnosed with anxiety, ADHD, and OCD, when I was, I don't know the exact age. It was probably between like 10 and 13, somewhere around there. Originally, it was, standard ADD mixed with some pretty intense anxiety that at the time was mostly social anxiety. I did not handle school well. I did not handle meeting new people well. I was just always uncomfortable. And then OCD, which I don't know if you noticed that I kind of paused when I said OCD. It's because I kind of question if I was misdiagnosed with the OCD, just because it seems like in newer research, they found a connection between ADHD and anxiety and them causing things that are obsessive, but it's not full-blown OCD. It's just part of those other disorders. So either way, I have obsessive compulsive tendencies. I just don't know if it's technically OCD or not. But anyway, so I was on meds for everything for over a decade. I don't know when I started. I know in middle school, I can remember in middle school having to go at the end of lunch, I'd have to go to the nurse's office to get my medication because they wouldn't let students carry it with them. So I know by 7th grade, I was on meds. And the stupid thing with ADD meds is that, at least when I was taking them, I don't know if they've made any breakthroughs recently, but you'd have to take them every couple hours. So yeah, the anxiety meds I could just take in the morning, but the ADD meds I'd have to take halfway through the school day. So I know I was on them for that long, and I got off of them maybe 3 or 4 years ago, up until it was probably about 6 months ago now that I got back on my anxiety meds. So here's the story behind this. I'm not a fan of meds. I don't think anyone's a fan of meds. And of course, when I'm talking about this, I'm specifically talking about mental health issues, not like medication for, heart disease or something like that. I'm specifically talking about mental health stuff. So I'm, of course, not against meds because, first of all, I just said I'm on them. And also, I was on them for such a long period of time. But I was always hesitant I never liked taking them. And the reason I didn't like taking them was because I try to live as naturally as possible. And meds are about as unnatural as you can get. It's something created in a laboratory somewhere that then is going into your body and chemically altering stuff. It's basically the opposite of how I try to live my life. And I'm such a huge fan of trying to cure or help things in natural ways. So, things like being out in nature more, meditating, all that sort of stuff when it comes to anxiety. When it comes to ADHD, caffeine can, ironically, if you don't have ADHD, that's probably very confusing to hear, but caffeine can help it. All these things that come from plants or involve being around plants. I'm a huge supporter of those things. So when I was struggling, I was extremely hesitant for a long period of time to get back on medication. Now, there's also the factor that I didn't have health insurance. That's a whole nother talk for a whole nother day, that whole mess in America. But I was hesitant predominantly because I didn't want to be using something that's altering my brain. I wanted to figure it out on my own. I don't think I felt like I had to prove anything to anyone or myself, but I just wanted to try to avoid that if possible. And I want to add, I did avoid it. I avoided it for years, and I think I did pretty good. I mean, not every day was good, that's for sure. I definitely struggled. There are definitely times I can look back on now where I was like, yeah, if I had been on meds, I probably would have handled that better. But for the most part, I'm not someone who says this a lot, but I'm proud of myself for the period of time that I was able to not be on meds. And I'm also proud of myself. I swear I don't say I'm proud of myself like ever. I just said it twice in a row. I'm also proud of myself for getting back on meds when I realized I needed to. So here's the breakthrough I basically had when I was considering everything. I don't think people are going to be able to relate to my specific mindset because I have such a weird way of looking at things and such a fascination with how humans are quote unquote supposed to live. Just per our history as an animal. But maybe this can still help people that have been on the fence about getting on medication. There are many unnatural things we do in this world now that are just basically unavoidable unless you want to go full-blown living in a hut in the woods, which more power to you if you want to do that. I do not. I like things like video games and light bulbs and toilets. Indoor plumbing is lovely. What I realize, though, is we live in such an unnatural world that it creates these unnatural problems in our minds a lot of the time. I'm not trying to get into a debate about like the semantics around mental health issues, but I do think I think it's pretty clear that if we were living the way we were, again, quote, supposed to as animals, where we weren't constantly stressing about stuff, constantly, worrying about bills, being in artificial lighting, in air conditioning and heat, like even just the smallest things like that, once you add them all together, they end up causing health problems for us, whether it's physical or mental. In my case, you look at my social anxiety. If this had been however long ago when we were all, in small tribes, I wouldn't have had social anxiety like that because it would have been a small, close-knit group that I knew from birth, and I would have been comfortable around all of them. So that's actually a pretty decent example of how in this modern world where every single year I went to a new classroom and I had to meet new people and new teachers and all of that, and forget about it when I went to a new school each time. That was the worst. Those are things that just wouldn't have existed. So even if whether I would or would not have had an anxiety disorder, that long ago, in that time with the tribes and all that, even if I did, it would have been a non-issue. And it's the same thing with my ADHD. The ADHD flared up when I was in classrooms because, it's sit still, look at this book that's boring and there's no flashing lights and it's very quiet in here and you can't make any noise. You got to just listen to this person talk and you're somehow also supposed to absorb all this information. Again, in the past, I would have been out, gathering berries, going to war, hunting. I don't know what people did. I'm going to have to research that one, but you know what I mean. I wouldn't have been sitting there listening to some lecture day in, day out, just going crazy. So what I really realized was that, yes, meds are unnatural, but these are unnatural meds in an unnatural world that we've created. So sometimes you have to do things to counteract this new world that we've created that unfortunately has a whole lot of downsides to it, especially when it comes to mental health. And I really got through to myself with that one. It took me a little bit. And the sad thing was that once I got back on my anxiety meds, it made such a huge difference. I started being able to sleep. Now, I did also, full disclosure, I also got on sleeping medication. I went on both at the same time, so it's hard for me to tell which one's doing most of the heavy lifting, but I definitely feel a difference. And I just want to encourage people, if other things are not working, there's absolutely no shame in getting on medication for your mental health. I mean, you wouldn't not use crutches if you broke your leg because you're like, I'll handle this myself. Everyone would be like, what are you doing? Get the crutches. And crutches is a good example too, because wasn't it like Tom Cruise that was like, oh, taking pills for your mental health is just a crutch? Yeah, no shit. You know what else is a crutch? Crutches. You're not going to tell someone with crutches not to use their crutch because it's a crutch. Crutches help hold you up so you can live your life. Medication helps hold you up so you can live your life. Of course it's a crutch. Crutches aren't bad. What? Anyway, I'll stop ranting about Tom Cruise randomly. I told you I had ADHD. I do also want to say I am so excited for the breakthroughs they're making with plant medicine. And when I say plant medicine, in this case at least, I'm talking about cannabis, magic mushrooms. I'm seeing other stuff with things like DMT, all these different quote drugs that they're now realizing can have such a significant impact on people's well-being. I'm so excited for it, and I pray that in 10, 15 years from now, they're going to have figured out the exact dosage of these things where I can wake up in the morning, I can just take a couple of plants, maybe in pill form, whatever way I need to ingest it, I will ingest it. And it will just help me rewire my brain. I think all of that, I want to do a dedicated episode on plant meds like that because I'm fascinated with it, especially because you can look back and you can see people in the past using these things before, for whatever reason, we banned all these things. I mean, there are specific reasons, and I'd love to get into that with the episode too. A whole lot of corruption and greed. Shocking. Never heard of that before. So here's my personal suggestion as some guy sitting in his office that has no medical degree whatsoever. I think it's great if you want to start with trying to live a healthier life and see if that helps with your mental health. I can tell you that for me, it made a big impact, and I'm always working on this. Little tweaks to your life, taking little breaks, doing little things can have such a big impact long term. Just a little bit of that time to yourself. It can really, it can make you more productive at work even. It can make you happier in general. It can make you more fun to be around. So little things, whether it's eating healthier foods, going for walks, spending more time in nature, making sure you're eating a big enough variety of foods that you're getting enough vitamins and nutrients and all that. I think it's awesome to start with that because it could be that fixes it for you. But then if it doesn't fix it, and it stops short enough that your quality of life is still being impacted, I think it's important to take the next step then. So whether you have something that can now currently be treated with plant meds, that's awesome. Good for you. Congratulations. I'm jealous. I'm a little irritated. Or if you're less lucky like me, where they're still figuring stuff out and you got to go pharmaceutical, I just don't think anyone should worry about doing that. And I think a very important thing to remember when you're considering that is this doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment. Like I said, I was off meds for years and I was doing pretty good. Life got more stressful. Things got more hectic. We had issues with a crazy neighbor that was threatening our lives. We had bills pilot. Like there was a lot of stress. Sometimes things change, and it could be that a year from now, I won't need them anymore. It could be a year from now I'm on a higher dosage. Time will tell. But don't think if I'm getting on this med, I need to stay on this for the rest of my life, and I don't want to make a commitment like that. No, you don't have to. just go for it. You can always get off it later. It might work for you. It might not work for you. Just try it. Just try it. Talk to your doctor. Talk to someone you trust. If you don't have health insurance like I didn't, I personally used Lemonade, it's called. There's also a Cerebral that I'm looking into now. These are all online, over the phone places that you don't necessarily need insurance for. I can tell you I was paying $100 a month for the anxiety meds and the sleeping meds. And that's just a way of avoiding the doctor. I partially did that too because COVID was full force at that point and I wasn't vaccinated yet. So it just seemed like the right thing to do. It worked out pretty well. It's pricey, at least compared to if you have insurance, but, I'm sure it would have been more expensive for me to go to a regular doctor without insurance. So that worked out for me. Just keep in mind, those are options. A lot of people are struggling these days. I'm sure a lot of people are struggling all the time, but it seems like lately, especially with COVID and all the chaos in the world, people are struggling. So I really hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all hanging in there. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone that you're close to if you're struggling. That can help so much. Make sure you're reaching out to the right person. Don't reach out to, your grandma if she thinks that millennials are weak and need to stop sharing their feelings so much. Reach out to someone that's actually going to listen and be caring. But reach out to someone. It can really make such a big impact, even if you're not talking to like an actual therapist. Just having someone to talk to and just get stuff off your chest. Oh, it can help so much, I promise you. And just hang in there, everyone. I know things are crazy lately. This pandemic is taking its toll on everyone physically and mentally, and it doesn't really look like it's ending anytime soon, but just hang in there. I was about to say it'll get better. But I think that's kind of a dangerous thing to say to certain people, especially people with, depression and anxiety, because it's not necessarily going to get better. Like right now, I'm not anxious, but in 20 minutes for no reason whatsoever, it could be my anxiety flares up. And it's the same thing for people with depression, from what I understand. It can just suddenly hit you based on no outside factors. It's just your brain misfiring. So it might not get better tomorrow, but it might get better the next day. It's all going to come in waves, and you just got to hang in there through all of that. Figure out what works for you to help you through this. Talk to people, go for walks, eat healthy, take some pills if you need to. Punch your boss in the face if it helps you feel better. Don't do that one. Well, if you do, just don't tell them I told you to do it, because then I'll probably get in trouble. Basically, this episode's been long overdue because of the subject matter of this episode. My hope is that from here on out, I say my hope because, like I said, you never know when stuff's going to hit you again. But now that I'm medicated, my hope is that, 1 or 2 episodes per week, if not more. And I'm hoping to get a lot of guests on. I'm hoping to get some real good, solid, usable information for all of you. I'm hoping to build a connection with the audience that I will hopefully be building on here. I'm hoping to do some real good with this podcast. And I'm going to be real grumpy with myself if I don't stick to my schedule this time. I'm going to stick to my schedule. All right. That's all I got for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll tune in next time, and please do subscribe. And if you don't mind, leaving a review is a huge help. I just found out. I didn't even know that. I didn't know it had that much of an impact, but apparently it works with some sort of algorithm, helps get it out there more. So if you can leave a review, or if you're on YouTube, comment, share, you know all the things. Everyone else tells you to do the things. I'm not going to keep talking. All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day and try to stay sane. I know I'm trying. We can do it. We'll do it together.